I know, Bravo is the only Demeter certified probiotic. Another point of uniqueness. How does it do what it does? Now, here again, I hope you will forgive me if I am a little bit prolix, but my background as a university professor unfortunately gave me this imprinting. When you think about probiotics, what are probiotics? Friendly microbes. This is what it means. Pro, bios, that favor life. Okay, probiotics. Because up until then, it was thought that all microbes were evil. So you want to avoid microbes. You want to kill them all with all the disinfectants. Well, many microbes are evil, are pathogenic, they cause disease, so you don't want them around. But most microbes, actually, they are helpful for our health, and those are called probiotics that favor life. Now, when you think about probiotics, you think about microbes, and you're right. Those are called probiotic microbes. And when you go at your local grocery store or vitamin shop, you buy a capsule that contains a certain number of these probiotic microbes, lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, streptococcus thermophilus, and so on and so on. And they're all good, no doubt. But they are simply isolated microbes. So they colonize your gut, assuming that they pass your stomach barrier intact. The Bravo does, because it is designed so to not to be digested in the stomach, in other words. And they colonize the gut and they keep on working there. Bravo is not like this. Bravo is an entire microbiome where in Switzerland we let these microbes grow. We call this process fermentation. And during the process of fermentation, these microbes, they produce molecules. And these molecules, what do? They do a number of things to our health. They help the immune system. They help the brain, central nervous system. They help the parasympathetic system, or the vagus nerve. They help with circulation. They help with the heart function. They help with blood pressure. And all these molecules, you don't find them in a common probiotic, because in the common probiotic, you only find the microbes. In Bravo, you find the microbes plus what it is called their theater of activity. That is all the molecules that they have produced during the process of fermentation. Why do the microbes produce all these molecules for our benefit? Well, they don't do for our benefit. All these molecules, they are for their own benefit, but coincidentally, and actually it is not a coincidence, we evolved together with these microbes. Coincidentally, all these molecules, they are very helpful for us as well. As I said, without those molecules, our immune system wouldn't work. Our circulatory system would be in problem. Our brain would be in problem. Brain fog, chronic fatigue syndrome, autism, all these things, they happen because there is an imbalance in the gut, in the human microbiome, not only the gut microbiome. So Bravo does what it does because it is not simple a collection of microbes, but it is a collection of microbes plus all the molecules that they use for their own benefit, for our own benefit. Unfortunately, we are in a time of war. And this is unfortunate. Every time there is a war is never a good thing. But unfortunately, a history of humans seems to be one war after the other. So I take the liberty of giving a military example. Let's say that your country is under attack. Your body is under attack. So you want to have an army to defend you. And you could hire an army of naked soldiers. Naked, no uniform, no weapons, only bare hands. Well, I would say better than nothing. So an army of naked soldiers, maybe they can fight with their hands or with their legs. The probiotics you buy at the grocery store are naked soldiers. They don't have weapons, they don't have uniforms, they don't have binoculars or radars or any sophisticated system. They are naked soldiers. Better than nothing, I agree. Bravo is an entire army where the soldiers, they have manufactured their own weapons their own uniforms, their own detection instruments, their radars, binoculars, and whatever else is needed to fight a war. Because Bravo is an entire ecosystem, not only the microbes. So this is the big difference. And I would say that if your body is under attack, you want an army not of naked soldiers, but an army of soldiers who have their own weapons, the weapons they are able to use because they have manufactured themselves. So this is why Bravo is unique, another reason why it's unique. Plus, and this is something that sometimes is difficult to explain, so let me try to make it as simple as possible. Usually when we talk about probiotics, we talk about microbes, bacteria, lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and so on. Fine, and it is true. But in Bravo, there is something else. Now, this becomes recursive, as we say in science. We have our microbiome. In our body, we have these microbes. Interesting. The microbes, they have their own microbiome. And you can say, how is it possible? Microbes are very, very small. They don't have a gut, they don't have a brain. How is it possible that they have their own microbiome that defends them? Oh, well, actually, this is the reality. The microbes of the microbes are called phages or bacteriophages. They are viruses, so even smaller than the microbes themselves. And they reside inside the microbes. And they're very helpful for the microbes because these viruses, they go and kill the competing microbes that are those that cause disease. So in Bravo, not only you have the microbes, the probiotics, not only you have the lactobacillus, the bifidobacterium, and so on and so on, you also have the molecules that they produce that help us with immunity, circulation, and so on. And also you have the phages, the microbes of the microbes. And what is their purpose? To go and kill naturally all the pathogenic microbes that we may encounter, all the microbes that cause disease. So the phages are kind of a natural antibiotics. I don't like to use this term because antibiotics are chemicals, but the phages are natural. We may discuss whether viruses are alive or not. This is more of a philosophical question, but whatever. Bravo has phages, and we have demonstrated this. We have published this. And these phages, what do? A number of things, including, for example, to protect us from the damage of electromagnetic radiations. You know all the controversies about 5Gs, all the controversy about Wi-Fi's, wireless. We are immersed in a universe of invisible electromagnetic fields, not to mention ionizing radiations like radiology. I am a radiologist, so I know those radiations quite well. CAT scans, X-rays, rays for the teeth. So we have a number of insults to our cells due to radiations, whether ionizing like X-rays or non-ionizing like electromagnetic fields. Well, one of those phages codes for a protein that protects us from the harmful effects of all electromagnetic fields. This is just to give you an example. And you don't find the phages in any other probiotic. Absolutely not. And let me give you just a very brief historical excursus. Phages have not been discovered yesterday. Phages were discovered more than 100 years ago. And prior to World War I, phages were heralded as the new frontier in medicine. Why? Because they were an extremely natural and simple way to fight infectious diseases. We're talking before the antibiotic era, and to fight a number of diseases going from infectious diseases to cancer and other diseases. And then the two World War came, and the antibiotics came, and the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy came. And so all the research on phages was kind of discarded and put on a drawer. Only in the Republic of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the US, where this is Atlanta, but the Republic of Georgia, former Soviet Union, now I think it's an independent republic. They kept on working on this topic because, they were expert before the two world wars, and so they kept on working. And guess what? Just a few years ago, the phage therapy, so it is called, was rediscovered, and again it was called the new frontier of medicine. So if you just Google phage therapy, new frontier of medicine, you can find a number of scientific articles, this time published by researchers all over the world, not only from the Republic of Georgia, but it's Tbilisi, describing the efficacy of the phage therapy. Well, with Bravo, you don't need any phage therapy because they're there naturally. And we didn't put the phages there. The microbes, they brought the phages with them because, as I say, the phages are the microbes of the microbes, the microbiome of the microbes. And again, absolutely unique. You don't find phages in any other probiotic, in any other product that I am aware of. And then another point of uniqueness, go to and take a look at the label of your probiotic, and you can find 5, 6, or 7 strains. As I said, Lactobacillus, Bifidobacterium, Streptococcus, and so on, but no more than 5 or 6.
Those are strains of bacteria, to clarify. Strains of bacteria, correct?
Yes, different 5 or 6 strains of bacteria.
Okay.
Of course, you have no mention of phages because there are no phages there.
Correct.
In Bravo, we have demonstrated that there are 400 different strains, 400 different species. When we first began our journey with Bravo, and probably Peter remembers, we had counted up to 42 different strains, which again was more than 3 or 4 times the number of strains of any other probiotic. But then we went in much greater detail, in much greater depth, using a sophisticated DNA analysis system. It's called the Axiom Microbiome Array. And using this array, we were able to identify roughly 400 different strains. Because, there are strains and substrains. As I used to say, you have the category of dogs and cats, okay? But then if you wanted to look in detail, and you look at dogs, you have Chihuahuas, German Shepherds, Great Pyrenees, and everything in between. So when we first looked at the strains of Bravo under the microscope, it is as if we were looking at dogs, cats, cows, and a few other animals. But then we went into detail and said, okay, we have dogs, but like we have lactobacilli, but are they all the same? Not at all, because in the category of dogs, we had the Chihuahuas and German Shepherds, Grand Saint Bernard, and so on. And to keep on with the comparison, in the category of lactobacilli, we have a number of substrains. So no other probiotic can boast this incredible biodiversity. And why biodiversity is important? Well, it goes without saying. If you wanted to repopulate a forest, because there is a fire, so the forest is gone. Okay, we want to repopulate this forest. You cannot use one simple type of tree, one simple kind of tree. You have to give the most biodiversity to reproduce what the forest was before the fire. So if you wanted to reconstitute or to help or to support the human microbiome, you cannot use only 3, 4 different strains. You have to use a complexity that is close to the complexity of the microbiome. And here come the genes. As I said, if we count the number of genes in our human microbiome, we end up with a number close to 500,000 genes, 500,000 genes. If we count, as we did recently, the number of genes in that capsule of Bravo product, you end up with 450. So very, very close to the 450,000, of course, or close to 500,000 of microbial genes. So very, very close to the entire human microbiome. So think about as a genetic transplant. So these are things that until a few years ago were the topics of science fiction. And this is not science fiction. This is a fermentation technology, Swiss technology brought to you in a capsule. So that's why Bravo is so complex that it perfectly mimics the complexity of the human microbiome. Why it is unique? Because of the number of strains, because of the number of genes, because of the presence of phages, because it is made in a Demeter certified facility, because it has detoxifying properties. And this is all these things I'm saying, as Peter says, don't believe me. Please question every single statement I have made. Make a question, and I will give you the peer review article demonstrating exactly all these things. So they do reconstitute this most important organ of ours that unfortunately, because of modern living, it's corrupted. It is unbalanced. And let me just finish this long dissertation with a few considerations. Peter, I think, is 80 years old. I hope you never told, and I am 70. So we are both old, not obsolete, as somebody said, but definitely we are not young, we are old. How long shall we live? Well, who knows? We hope long, but we cannot tell. And all living beings have to die. All living beings have to age. Yes. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are exceptions, but we're talking about jellyfish, we're talking about strange animals. So are there exceptions to this unfortunate universal law of aging that are close to us? Yes, there are some mammals. Mammals are very, very close to us. All mammals, they share more than 90% of their DNA. So we are close to all mammals. And there is a very funny mammal. You can Google it and you will see how funny it is. It is called naked mole rat. Naked because it doesn't have any fur. Mole because it's a mole. Rat because it's a rat. Naked mole rat. Heterocephalus glabrus. It's the Latin denomination. Now, the naked mole rat doesn't age. How is it strange? And considering that the age of a regular rat is about 2 years, these rats have been kept under observation now for about 40 years, 40 years, which is the equivalent of 700 human years. And they don't age, and they are fertile. They keep on mating and making little naked mole rats, and they are immune to most chronic conditions, from heart disease to cancer to most chronic. This is strange because a rat or a human, from the genetic point of view, from the point of view of DNA, are very, very similar. How is it possible that these naked mole rats they live the equivalent of 700 years of humans? Maybe there is something different in their DNA? No, their DNA is the same as all rats, very similar to our DNA. Do they eat something particular? Not much. They eat whatever they find. They live underground. They don't have any magical or secret ingredient in their diet made by any company. No, they eat whatever they find. So what is the difference? The difference it is in their microbiome. That, interestingly, the composition of their microbiome is very similar to the microbiome of human centenarians, those who live past the mark of 100 years. Many humans, not many, but humans could live past 100 years. And what do they have different? Well, you can tell I have not been smoking, I've always exercised, and of course this is good, but the big difference between ultra-centenarians and people who die younger is in their microbiome. So now we have two types of beings. The naked mole rat has a certain microbiome. The ultra-centenarian humans have very, very similar, if not identical, microbiome. And then you have the Hasta hunter-gatherers. Who are these people? These people are, we could call them, but this is derogatory, primitive people, untouched by modern society, untouched by progress.